Kendra and I had grown apart. We were completely disconnected spiritually, emotionally, sexually. We were essentially on the brink of divorce in 2015, 16. Hello and welcome to episode number 2 of the Weaponized Marriage Podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Hewitt.
And I'm your host, Kendra Hewitt.
And today's episode is technically our first episode, and maybe the most difficult episode for me, only because I think that this episode here is recounting a lot of where we came from. So I think it's important for all the listeners to know, like, we're not therapists, we're not marriage counselors. We're just regular old, married business owners with a child.
Why do we have to be old?
Okay, I guess not old. Well, we're kind of old. We're not spring chickens anymore. So I think it's important for listeners to know where we came from and what pre-qualifies us to be talking about the topics we want to share with people. So we call this episode our origins. And Kendra and I both agreed that what we're going to talk about is where we came from in our lowest moments. And so we got married in 2010, and we, life hit us real fast. In our first year of marriage, we bought a house, got a dog, started a business, got married, all in the same year. And it just like flashed 5 years, like right in front of our eyes. And during that time, like, I had a lot of growth to do because I came from a place where I had zero experience in business, zero experience in sales, in marketing. And Kendra was basically like my mentor. So she taught me everything I could possibly know about, like, believing in myself and speaking and marketing and all the things that you need to be accomplished at when you're in business. So all through this time, like, what I failed to do was to realize that although I was technically a business owner, I was still just showing up as a 9-to-5 employee in my own business. And what I did, and I caution anybody who's going to go in business with their significant other or who is in business with their significant other, is that it can really erode a relationship when you're basically bringing your business with you everywhere you go. You don't have margins for times where you don't talk about business, but especially like if you're not pulling your weight, essentially is what I'm saying. So for the first 5 years, me trying to figure myself out and just grind away in business, I was not pulling my weight. I left Kendra to do all the taxes, all the legal, all the accounting, all the marketing, training employees, hiring, and I was just showing up to adjust people as a chiropractor. I was just showing up to be the doctor. I was not leading my team. I was not leading, by statistics, and I did not have a vision. It was something that I had never really done before. So with this insecurity in business of mine, the only place I felt secure was in my fitness. So I leaned into CrossFit really hard. And, I thrived in the sport of CrossFit because it lends itself to people that are like well-rounded. So I could do strength, I could do endurance, I could do gymnastics, and I just leaned in and I had a blast. Although I pretty much, after 5 years of hardcore CrossFit, really like 7 years, I finally started to break without realizing that other things were also breaking. Kendra and I had grown apart. We were completely disconnected, spiritually, emotionally, sexually. We were essentially on the brink of divorce in 2015, 16. And I completely broke her trust, first of all, of just not leading as a man in our business. I wasn't producing. I wasn't, doing regular routine date nights. And I essentially placed my wife in the masculine role in our relationship. And naturally, she was, repelled by me. Me showing up as a weak person. And, I thought it was a good idea to, find somebody else to connect with. So we were having issues with intimacy, with trust, with disconnection. And essentially what I realized is I was just copying the patterns of what I watched growing up. I think I distinctly remember a conversation because Kendra came from the school of Tony Robbins. And I think some of the conversations in the world of personal growth is like, well, what kind of vision do you have? Like, what kind of marriage would you like to have? And I never even considered that from the beginning. It's like, well, what rule book, what playbook are we going to use? And the playbook I decided to use was the default playbook, the one that I watched growing up, which was, unfortunately not the healthiest, patterns and relationships to model. So I was trying to do it all alone, and I kept everything inside. I kept all of my lies, all of my secrets, and everything inside until one day I broke. I broke physically, I broke mentally, I was broken spiritually, and we were on the brink of divorce. And this is where I tell people this is how I found Wake Up Warrior, which completely changed my life, because I found another man who had the strength to talk about these exact things that we're going to share. With regards to marriage and sex and money, spirituality. So what he really did for me is he put a mirror in front of my face, and I finally realized like all
like
these
a physical mirror.
like a whatever sort of mirror you want to say, like everything he was saying was like I was relating to, because he was putting up a mirror in front of me, showing me like I am my worst enemy. I'm my biggest problem. So all along I'm copying.
But when you're the biggest problem, you're also what?
The biggest solution, right? So, but this is what had to happen. I had to completely break down, like on the brink of just like complete hopelessness and thoughts of suicide and all these awful things. But finding other men to connect to that, like, hey, like you're not alone. Like this is stuff that other people struggle with and other men struggle with. Yeah. And so like that was where I was at in 2016 leading into 2017.
Yeah. And I think, like Ryan said, there was no separation between church and state. You ever hear that saying?
Yeah, of course.
Of like, we worked and we worked and we worked and we did CrossFit together.
Until we didn't.
Yeah. And so I think about that. Like I remember this one trip specifically, where it was the first time I'd taken a trip on my own with one of my girlfriends. And I talked her into it, and we went to Greece. And the plan was that we were going to go to Greece. We were going to stay a week, do a yoga retreat, and then our significant others, Ryan and our friend John, who's one of his best friends, were going to meet us in Greece. And we ended up meeting, and I think the first place we went to was Santorini, right?
Yep.
Which, if that's not on your bucket list, it should be.
Mm-hmm.
But
we need to go back there.
It was a trip that we'd never taken a trip like this before. And I had planned it and paid for it, and Ryan just basically showed up.
Just like I did in every other way.
And just like he did in every other way at that point in our life. Mm-hmm. And I remember that first night when we were there, and we're in this like absolutely epic hotel. It's built in the shower was a side of a volcano, right?
Built in the side of a cave.
So the shower was actually like the outside of the cave. And like, I mean, anybody would look at that and be like, that's a fun place to go.
Yeah, let's have some crazy, sexy times here.
Yes. Yeah. And I remember us going in there, and it was just like awkward as fuck. Like it was just like, I don't really know who you are. I don't really know who I'm being right now. I don't know where I'm at. I just spent a week like trying to figure out like where I'm at, but I don't really know what that is. And now I'm trying to figure out how I can get the courage to bring this up. And I think a big thing for me was that I realized that I never had the courage. And like Garrett, the founder of Wake Up Warrior, that's become a really good mentor of ours. He hadn't come into Ryan's life yet at that point, but I love what Garrett says is that like all men want to be paid and laid, and all women want to be seen and heard. Yeah. And I really feel like there is no truer saying than that. as funny as that is to me.
But the seen and heard has like a big instruction list of how that happens.
Yes,
Guys is like painfully. That's it.
That's it.
Simple.
But the seen and heard has different definitions for every like woman, right? So, but most of all, I didn't have the courage at that point in our relationship. Like, I didn't know how to communicate what I was feeling. And so basically I just disassociated and I started really avoiding you, was, if I look at it, looking back. But it really, that was the pivotal moment on that trip where I like walking into that cave for me, where I was like, this is so hot. This is so sexy, but I'm not sure if I'm having sex with the right person.
Yeah. Which, I mean, that's the story I told myself, is like that Kendra's not attracted to me. And then you told yourself the story of, I don't know if Ryan's the right person for me.
Yeah. And then I think and that 2015 trip, because I didn't have the courage, like I take my responsibility in it, was that I just let it progressively get worse. And I just was going to see where it went. Right.
Yeah. So I'm the one who blew it all up. Right.
And then Ryan blew it all up. And it really, I think I had a lot of trust issues in the first place with men. Which I think is very common also for women. I had a lot of trust issues I was working through with myself. But I wasn't really fully aware of how that was filtering down. But also I think the huge thing for me was then, if I'm like really looking at it, as you said, 2015, 2016, here we are 10 years later. But what also happened in 2016 was, we got audited by the IRS.
Yeah.
And I had done our taxes myself after having a really bad accountant butcher it. So I took it on myself. And I started to tell the story. I was like, I figure everything out. And I was going to figure out how I was going to defend ourselves on the audit. Didn't hire an attorney. I literally went to the audit by myself. And I remember this day so clearly, because I walked in and both Ryan and I were owners of the business at that time. And they were like, well, where's your husband?
Yeah.
And I was like,
he's at CrossFit.
Yeah, he's probably running 10 miles right now. I don't know. Yeah. And I can just remember my physiology shifting. I think I actually got like bright red embarrassed more than I was like, I wasn't angry about him saying that. And we started the questions, and I had to produce all these documents, which ultimately we settled, and it was we got through it. But it was really in that moment sitting there that I was like, I'm here by myself because he can't explain any of this.
Yeah. I had my head in the sand about all the backside stuff.
And I was like, holy shit. I was going through things, and the auditor that I had at the time, who, let's not get started, lived in his parents' basement going through our financials, which I was trying to get over that. And making his questions,
like a
just
criminal.
His questions, trying. And I was working really hard to keep myself in state so that didn't affect me. But when I left that day, I just was like, man, something's got to change. Yeah. And I didn't know what the step to do that was.
Yeah. I mean, and like you said, I made it, I made the marriage get to a place of an ultimatum, and ultimately we chose to stay together.
Yeah. And I always like to tell people this is our second marriage, even though I'm married to the same person.
Yeah.
And I really hope that's what we'll do at this podcast, is we won't focus on, we'll definitely talk about the pain points, but I also think that the biggest help we can be to other people is to really be real and raw with those ups and downs.
Yeah, because where we are today, I mean, we're in the best place we've ever been 15 years into our marriage.
Yeah. And that was 10 years ago. And if you told me 10 years ago, we would still be married and we would be where we are at today and able, even wanting to do a podcast together, I would be like, I don't know what kind of drugs you do, but maybe you should share them. Because we have really, and we are definitely not, we have room for more.
Yeah. We're not experts by any means, but I mean, our sex life is the best it's ever been. we're in the best place individually with our vision of what we want and our finances, and our philosophy with our parenting, as well as our spiritual life. We invited God into our life 2 years ago, and it's been a game changer.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we work out in the same place, and not often together, but
Yeah.
obviously, physical fitness and health is a big passion of both of ours. So,
Mm-hmm.
so in future podcasts, that's what we look to bring to you, is insights, in all domains and all the pains and the pleasures of marriage, and just talk about it from our experience, and hopefully it's able to help some people.
Mm-hmm.
So rate, share, and subscribe if you like what we have to say. If you want to join us, we'll be doing a weekly podcast live from our upstairs nook here. So we look forward to
until we have this or something better.
Yeah, right. So we look forward to hearing from you guys. Please, put your comments in, and we'll see you guys in a week.